5 ways the rich get richer using debt. You may have heard some of these phrases that have to do with debt. Debt is evil, never get into debt, debt keeps you in bondage. These are true to a certain extent because when you're drowning in debt, it can become a daunting task trying to pay them off. Your debts don't wait for you to get yourself together and figure things out. No, they keep growing day after day since lenders don't lend money for free. Instead, lenders lend money to borrowers with the goal of making interest on that money. Total U.S. consumer debt is almost $15 trillion, which brings the average household debt to over $5,300. The GDP of the United States is a little over $21 trillion, which means the economy consists almost entirely of debt. But I have some good news for you. Debt isn't always bad. Debt is not popular because most of the debt we have are bad debt. You probably have some credit card debts, a car loan, and maybe even a student loan debt. And you're thinking, it will take me ages to pay off all of these debts. So how on earth can debt be something good? To understand how it can be something positive, let's look at how rich people use debt to make even more money. It might sound a bit confusing because why would anyone with a lot of money need debt? After all, debt is supposed to be used by people who do not have money, right? But that's not how capitalism works. Debt is a powerful tool if you know how to use it. And in this video, we will find out how rich people use debt to get richer. So give this video a thumbs up and let's begin. Number 1. Most of our trading is based on debt. It might sound a bit controversial because borrowing money to start a business can be a terrifying idea. And personally, I would never do that, but there are businesses, especially traditional businesses, where using debt is your best option. Let's say you want to sell pens. It's a very common product and there's pretty much always a demand for it. Ideally, you would fly to China, find a factory that produces that kind of pen with good quality at the right price. You would purchase a container of pens, ship them to where you live, and distribute them to your clients. All of this is mostly done online through websites like Alibaba, unless it's a more complicated product where you have to fly to that factory. But here is the catch: you don't really have to pay for the products to have the product. First, let me explain how in the past 50 years, China has become the factory of the world, producing literally everything. Thousands of factories work non-stop to produce everything that the world needs, and in order to make it easier to sell, a lot of these factories would gladly loan you their products in return that you would pay them sometime in the future. Of course, they would not lend to strangers, so you will have to build some kind of trust with them first, but that's how business has been running for the past 50 years. Once the client would sell the product in the US or any other part of the world, he would pay the factory and borrow more products. So you're basically telling the factory, you know how to produce it, so let me help you sell it. If I can sell it for anything above this price, that's going to be my profit. What makes this strategy great is that you're not tying up your own money in this transaction. That's why selling is one of the best skills you can ever master. Number 2. Refinancing. Real estate debts is the best kind of debt because it's filled with loopholes. If you don't have a mortgage, then you're paying extra taxes. Rich people always have multiple mortgages to be able to get all of those deductions. Remember, every dollar that you're supposed to pay in taxes but instead you save is an extra dollar earned, so that's another way rich people get richer. But let me give you a more practical example. Let's say you saved $200,000. That's a lot of money, but let's be honest, you can't even buy a house with that in many parts of this country. But here's the secret. Let's say you find a property that costs $500,000. It's in bad condition and needs some or maybe a lot of renovation. You go to a bank and get a mortgage by making a 20% down payment. You spend around 10% of the total cost of the house to renovate it, or around $50,000. You head to your bank again, but this time to refinance your old mortgage. When you got your first mortgage, the value of that property was just $500,000, and it was in such a bad condition that no one wanted to live there. But since you have renovated it now, there are people who want to rent it. Now the market value of that property, let's say, rises to $700,000. Like the first time, let's say you're going to get an 80% mortgage, but 80% out of $700,000 is $560,000. $400,000 of that money is going to go to your first bank that gave you the first mortgage, and let's deduct another $50,000 that you spent on renovation. And you're going to be left with an extra profit of $110,000. You made your profit and still have a property that you can rent out to build equity and generate passive income. In addition to that, you are going to avoid paying taxes because you have a mortgage. This is a common practice among real estate investors. Can you say after this that debt is bad? I will leave that for you to answer in the comment section below. Number 3. Hedge funds. Hedge funds are made by the rich for the rich to make rich people richer, and they usually use unpopular strategies that is not available to ordinary people like you and me. We do our best to predict which companies are going to grow and rise in value and invest the money we work so hard to earn in hopes for these companies to grow. But hedge funds often use a completely opposite strategy. They try to make money when companies fall or go bankrupt, as was the case with GameStop. Although in that case, the internet challenged hedge funds and caused them to lose over $13 billion. But how do hedge funds make money with debt? Let's say you expect a certain stock like Facebook to decline because you know that Apple, who produces the most popular smartphone, will announce next week that they will no longer let apps track users, like Facebook or Instagram track online activities of users. And Apple decided to make privacy their first priority, which would significantly damage Facebook's business model. So you pick up your phone and call your broker to borrow from him a single Facebook stock that costs, let's say, $100, and instantly sell it in the open market for $100. Congratulations! Now you have $100 in your pocket, but you still owe your broker one Facebook stock. Let's say you are right, and next week Facebook stock prices drops to $70. You use that $100 to buy one Facebook stock for $70 since the price dropped, and return it to your broker and pocket the difference. Congrats, you've made $30 out of a fall of a stock. It sounds simple in theory, but it's very complicated and risky in practice. What happens if you're wrong? What if the price doubles overnight? You still have to return that single Facebook stock to your broker and pay interest for borrowing that stock. Now you have to buy that stock back for $200 to return it to your broker. When you buy a stock and try to sell it when it rises, the maximum you can lose is the amount you invested. But not in the case of shorting if the price keeps rising. Your losses keep growing. Theoretically, you can make unlimited losses since theoretically the stock price can rise indefinitely. But if you have 100 analysts working for you, you can make a fortune using this strategy. And many of the rich do. Number 4. Forex. Forex is a market where currencies are traded. It makes international trade possible. You can't use US dollars in China. You have to buy Chinese yen to pay your employees in China, for example. So there is a market where anyone or any company can come in and purchase foreign currencies. Based on different factors, these currencies fluctuate. For instance, if the Fed raises interest rates, that will limit a dollar supply in the market and make the US dollar stronger against other currencies, or vice versa. So if you can predict which currencies will rise or fall, you can make a lot of money in this market. But what makes these markets so different from the rest is that you can borrow an additional $100 for every dollar you use to trade in Forex. That means if you trade with $1,000, you can hold a position worth $100,000. So if you end up making a small profit of 1%, it will still be a significant amount of money. Number 5. Credit score. As you can see, debt is a powerful tool. Every successful business, company, and entrepreneur uses debt in various ways, especially if you have a proven business model. Borrowing money to finance purchase orders is practiced pretty much by every business, so stop thinking that all debt is bad. For sure, debts with a high interest rate, such as credit card debts, are horrible, but to get a lower interest rate, you have to minimize the risks of loaning money to you. How do you do that? You build a track record of being a reliable borrower, which will translate to a high credit score, which rich people leverage to borrow even more money for their businesses. There are billions, if not trillions of dollars in the banks, waiting for someone to borrow them. So what are you waiting for? Start building your wealth today. And that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed and learned something from it. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and give it a big thumbs up. Thanks for watching.